Welcome back to the Patient Magnet podcast. My name is Jared Rohr. I'm the CEO and owner of Aesthetic Conversion, a web and SEO agency. And the Patient Magnet is a podcast dedicated to teaching you, the clinic owner, how to effectively drive new attention to your business, turn that attention into a lead, sell that lead ethically, and then keep them coming back for years and years to come. And today I am joined with one of my incredible friends, Jamie York, standing at a super tall 5'1" today. I'm fired up to have Jamie on the podcast. If you're watching the video, you will see what I'm talking about. But Jamie is an incredible voice in the field of medical aesthetics. And honestly, I think one of the most impactful energies that you will ever connect with in your life. I am so grateful to know Jamie, and I'm just so excited to have you on the podcast. Jamie, can you introduce yourself?
Yes,
and you're welcome to say your actual height.
Sure, thank you for having me. Okay, so imagine this. Jamie and Jared are getting on the screen, and Jared is sitting up tall, and then we're side by side, and then Jamie is somehow, my camera lens is pointing down at me to where I look like I'm half of Jared's size. So I'm like, Jared, how do I get my chair up? So I go back and get I'm sitting on a pillow, you guys, so that way I can be as tall as Jared.
I love it.
Real height is 5'8", although I wish I was 5'1", as you said, so I could wear high heels.
Yes. Yeah. I've never worn high heels, so I don't know how tall I am. I'm 5'10" without heels. So maybe I could hit 6 feet, 6'1" in heels.
Jared, you're perfect.
Oh, thanks, Jamie. Thank you. Now, can you tell everybody a little bit about what you do and your work with Peak Gravity Leadership?
Yeah. So a little bit about what we do. I'll start with a little bit of my past in medical aesthetics. And so I came into this space, a little over 15 years ago. I came from end-of-life care and operations and came into a little spa at the time called Alace Spas. And we grew over that 13-year period into many locations, 150 team members at the time of acquisition. We were the second largest producer in the country based on like the Allergan stats.
What size was it when you started?
We had 8 employees, and
my God,
and I walked in from end of life care, like running one of the largest facilities here in the state of Utah, and I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be a cakewalk, right? Like little medical aesthetic practice and 8 employees, and if you're in medical aesthetics and you're in business operations, you can relate to this, that it is a different beast than any other business. And it's so fast paced, you have to be on your toes. And it was a bit of a learning curve. And truly for me, it was this learning curve of coming from meaning, like in end of life care, I was very purpose driven. Like I was very aware of, I was 29 at the time, very aware of the meaning in my work. And then coming into medical aesthetics in the ops role, thought, oh gosh, like, am I in the vanity business? And it took me back for a minute. And then I quickly realized, like, actually we're in the people business, and we're in this business of developing confidence. And for me in the ops role is developing confidence in our team members and the growth of the business, and allowing our team members to then build confidence for the patient. And so very quickly I honed in on purpose, and then that guided me personally in like growing within this industry.
I love that. And I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but I'd love to poke a little bit into that purpose kind of driven mindset. I feel like that's something that I've personally resonated with recently, where I feel like there are certain types of people that are motivated. They're motivated by different things. And some people are motivated by money, and that is totally fine. They're super ambitious and they get things done. Some people are motivated by status, perfectly fine. But I find that I gravitate towards and enjoy my time the most with people who are motivated by purpose. And because I feel like that's been a lot of my personal mindset. What do you feel between end of life and jumping into a completely seemingly different industry, your personal purpose, how you've maybe like refined that and found those bridges between the two?
Yeah. And really that was a gift coming from end of life care, of understanding that this life it's temporary here, right? It's like we only have a limited amount of time. Let's make the absolute most of it, and not just for ourselves, but everyone around us. And so that was that intrinsic drive for me to lead a team. And And with that, it was how do we create this environment where people can show up whole and do their best work? And that was under creating an environment where people understand what their coming in purpose, that what they're doing does matter. Every role in the team plays to the outcome of the performance of the organization. And then it starts with how we perceive the work that we do. And so out the gate, we'd always teach at New Hire Orientation. We continue teaching this work of, this came from like Sean Acor, and then there's another beautiful physician actually from the Mayo Clinic that teaches how we perceive our work impacts how our work, the work that we do, right? So if we can see it as a job, we can see it as a career, or we can see it as a calling. And that physician from the Mayo Clinic in his book, I wish I could remember it. I think it's Dr. Smoot, but he says, and we could even see it as a prayer. And so when we come into this mindset of like what we do truly is a calling, then we come in with some like really high motivation. And what comes back is really rewarding. And I believe that the financial success comes with that as well. At least that's been
totally agree.
That's been the outcome for the organizations that we served within with Alace. And then post Alace acquisition, we came out to start this new company called Peak Gravity Leadership.
Yep.
I had the opportunity to partner with, well, you know him, he's a good friend of yours too, but the former head of global leadership with Galderma was equally as nerdy about creating environments where people can show up whole and do their best work and come to this highest level of performance as an organization. So I partnered with Chad Truby and we started this organization, and we've been doing education and consulting in the aesthetic renaissance space.
Yeah. So after, leaving Alace and helping them with that sale, you launched Peak Gravity Leadership, which helps people feel like whole people at work. And our company has been through the Peak Gravity process, and it was a game changer. We formed our values because of it. Jamie and Chad helped us a ton and helped me personally kind of just align our team members towards kind of a true north for our business. So I know that I've been personally grateful. So does Peak Gravity only do leadership development, or do you guys have a little bit more of a full consultative suite available to you?
Yeah, we do have, it started in leadership development, and then there was a heavy need for management development. And when I served as president of Alace, that was something that I really honed in on, was the acumen of every manager in every location. Because if you're creating this high performance environment, it really starts with the acumen of the manager of that location. Yeah. And so we put together our management curriculum. It took us about a year to craft like the ideal management curriculum and roll that out. And we've had great success with that. And then we found.
So you're essentially coaching managers on how to have the business acumen to run a clinic effectively.
Yes. And so it's their people skills, and it's how to hold the one-on-ones, how what KPIs to follow, how to drive a high performance organization. And so that's been really successful. We're doing that across the nation. We have over 100 managers that we're running through right now. Wow. And what's been most popular is just like private management, where we have at least if we have 3 leaders in the org, then we can run a private. And then there's been a need of really this lead acquisition, where we go into a practice and we see the first question that's asked, should I spend more money on my marketing?
Right,
that's
of course. Everyone wants to know.
Should I spend more money here? That's a great question. Let's look at your acquisition rates.
Yeah. What's the first question is great. What are your numbers? They're like, I don't know. You're like, okay, let's figure that. Let's track it. Yeah.
And that's if you're there, just no judgment. It's very common. That's typically where everyone starts. It's like, I don't know. I just keep throwing money at my marketing. Yeah. And so then we hone in on, okay, what's that percentage of conversion of those leads that come in? What's actually converting into business for us? And when we start tracking it, then we find on average, we see about 18 to 20%. Yeah. And the national average is right in line with that 20%. And so it's a big eye opener of, oh my gosh, I'm spending this money on leads and I'm not closing them. Yeah.
And just simply adjusting that follow-up process could triple their revenue. Like if they could get it up to 50, 60% closure rate, but they're at 18, all of a sudden they've tripled revenue without making a dime of additional marketing investment.
Yeah. And then when they hone in on that process and that training for their team, then they can bump up their marketing spend. And then they're ready to maybe increase provider hours because their utilization rates are up. Yeah. So it really it starts there. And that's so we found that there was a need where the teams weren't trained especially like that front desk team where they were the touch point where the leads are coming in from the form fills and they're getting the email leads and they're also getting the phone leads. And we found that either the timing of the response was off or the quality of the response. Typically, the
Yeah.
quality of the lead is there. It's pretty rare that that's not there,
Yeah.
but they're either not getting back to them within that 5 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, or the quality of the response just needs to be tweaked.
2 to 5 minutes. I thought it was they had to get back within 2 to 5 days, Jamie.
Yeah, I know when we see those conversion rates
Like,
under the
wait a
80%,
second.
the first thing we
Yeah.
ask is how long does it take to get back to the lead? We're like, we're doing so
Yeah.
good. We're 24 hours. Like, oh,
No.
that's
No.
great. Now what
Yeah.
if we get 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. I had one clinic, they were growing like crazy, and we were managing their CRM, and they reached out and they said, "Hey, could you please change our autoresponder? When they fill out the form on our website, can you change our autoresponding text?" I said, "Sure. What do you want to say?" They said, "Oh, we just want to add that says, please allow for 24 to 48 hours for us to respond in the text." And I said, "I'm going to be honest with you. Your competitors will have already treated this person before you've called them. Okay? Like, I mean, we'll do it. But
Yeah.
you are lighting marketing dollars on fire by doing this." And they're like, "Well, what do we do?" I said, "You invest into more front desk or a call center or something to get back. If you can't get back to them on time right now, I mean," and they were scaling like crazy. So they reinvested into their sales process, and they shot off like a rocket, launched another location within a year or something like that.
Awesome.
What kind of conversion rate are you seeing top performers hit? Like, so,
80%.
from lead 80?
Yeah. Yeah, we really want to see that, and I'll give a range more of like
Yeah,
that
of course.
70 to 80% is really high, hard, and realistic.
Wow.
And so as we coach to be tracking these leads on a regular basis and this conversion rate on a daily basis, then we see, okay, if our leads, when we do go below that, if we're in that lower 70% range or lower, then we simply just look back at the timing of a response and quality of response, and then make adjustments from there and get back up.
Are you seeing that number across the board with all kinds of leads, whether it's a organic SEO lead on the website versus an advertising lead? Like, is that 80% still true across the board, or is that kind of the average when you congeal all of the leads together?
When we look at them all together is where we're tracking that. So once they've come into the clinic, then we're looking, what's my conversion rate of that lead from prospect to either consult or in the chair. And we really do want that. We want that up to that 70, 80%, and we can do it. Like, why not do it? If we know
That
it's
is
possible,
awesome.
then we
Of
can
course.
do it.
Yeah.
And and then, like, how do we maintain it, right? So it's one thing to teach it, and so like our method, we want to teach you how to fish, and so we implement the processes, and we use a high performance athlete process, like coach athlete process, meaning we use self-reflection. So just like I was a mediocre diver back in the days. I know you were a water polo player.
I was a mediocre water polo player.
I didn't want to swim so much. So I'm like, what can I do where I don't have to swim so much, but I can go get those medals? And so I became a springboard diver, but I had an ex-Olympic athlete that was my coach. He was an Olympic athlete from Australia. And so he was really dialed into high performance coaching. And he had each of us filmed, like during practice, he would give us our reels, right? So he would film it. This is back in the day before you could just film on your cell phone. So he would film it, and then we would watch, do these replays. Yeah, just like that's what we do, these replays of our performance. And you could tell me all day long that my angle was off, my toes weren't pointed, but until I saw it for myself and I could see the splash in my unpointed toes, then that was when I could really correct that. And so we use that same high performance coaching, even here in medical aesthetics, to say, okay, what does excellence look like at that touch point? And then here's a self-assessment of what does sales excellence look like in a phone call or when you get that lead. And then you can self-assess and listen to your own phone calls. And we use that method, and we teach it to go back and then for you to do it with your team on a quarterly basis. So you're really maintaining that 70 to 80%. You're not being reactive and having to start your training all over.
Wow, that's huge. So now I know we're starting to let the train leave the station, but just to give a little context to everybody. No, this is my fault because I'm so fascinated by by you and how brilliant you are and what you've done. So for context for the rest of the audience, over here at Aesthetic Conversion and at the Patient Magnet, we have a bit of a philosophy. We say there's 4 stages to your digital sales funnel. There's fascination, which is eyeballs on the business. Then there is acquisition, which is turning those eyeballs into a lead. Then there's conversion, of turning those leads into sales and appointments booked. And then engagement, which is recycling them back up to the top over and over and over for years to come. And today with Jamie, we'll be focusing a lot for the rest of this conversation on that conversion stage. Once we get the lead, how do we make that happen? And so far we've talked a little bit about what that conversion rate should be. So, gold standard, the gold standard peak gravity leadership is 80%, 70 to 80%. And it's not uncommon for people to be stuck in the 20% range. So that is a massive, I mean, that's 4 times. That's 4 times the business opportunity where, as a marketing company, it's all the time that people are like, oh, well, the leads aren't good enough. It's like, well, let's go into your conversion rate and let's just see what's happening. And then 9 times out of 10, when they start focusing on their conversion rate or focusing on what's the process for following up on these leads, it fixes itself right up. Because organic leads in general aren't bogus. Organic leads in general are usually fine. Paid leads, I can understand. Paid leads, I can understand somebody not hitting the right demographic or something like that. Now, we should talk about a big cuss word in the field of medicine, Jamie. It's the S word, sales. The S word. It's the F word. No, it's the S word, sales. What is your mindset on sales and clinics selling? Should they hide and shy away from it as much as they can? How can they still have appointments without feeling like they're dirty salespeople?
Yeah, and that's so common, Jared. I'm glad that you brought that up, because typically when you go into an organization, the first thing we ask, for a high performance organization, it is an organization that's really cozy and comfortable with that 4 letters, SAL.
E. Yeah, it's 4 with that. Yeah, it's 4 with just an E. Yeah, that's fine. Singular. Yeah.
They're really comfortable with sales. We typically don't start there. Especially in aesthetic medicine, we're an industry of healers. And typically when you're coming from that healer side, it's really difficult, from what I've observed, to then also accept money for what you're providing. And so there's a very natural block that happens with sales. And typically organizations are really, when I say, are you tracking numbers, how are we doing with tracking numbers? And we kind of go through what that looks like. Most companies or most practices are not. And it's like, I don't want to have, I don't like that, just the inhumane way of doing business. Yeah. And so there's this mindset out there, or this thought process, or I would say misconception, that if we're tracking numbers and we're communicating numbers and going to healthy sales goals, that we're going to lose sight of our people, and we're going to become only number centric, and the humanity will leave, which is out of alignment with the values of the leaders within this industry, right? Like, everyone that I know here cares about people, and they want to put people first, and doing the right thing comes before the profitability. I've yet to see anyone that's not in line with that. And so it's this reframe of what if tracking numbers and having goals actually helps us serve our people better, and actually helps us drive a high performance organization, and that helps us make better decisions. Yeah. And so it's one, I think we have to acknowledge that there is a discomfort with the word sales, and understand the experiences in our lives that have led to this, whether it's coming from the hospital or what, maybe you've had bad sales environments. And then 2, then reframing that to actually, what if this can help us grow?
I always like to think of it as, because I'll hear clinics say this all the time. And in fact, clinics I've worked in, I've heard them say, we don't sell, we educate. We don't sell, we prescribe. We don't sell, we this. And I think they're accidentally, inadvertently creating this shame around the idea of selling, where people are like, oh yeah, we don't sell. And I think they're not afraid of sales. What they're afraid of is manipulation. They're afraid of convincing somebody. They're afraid of convincing somebody of something they don't need in order to line your pocket, which is not what you're doing. What you're doing is you are you're advocating for them to get the result they want. You're sharing the value. And if they say, yes, I see the value and yes, I want that, then what are we doing here? Like, of course, that's sales. Sales is showcasing value and then charging for it and having mutual agreement. Manipulation is like, oh yeah, like, were you aware that your temples are all sunken in? Like, what are you going to do about that? Then the person's like, I don't know. It's like, well, Sculptra, 2 whole vials of Sculptra could probably let right, all of a sudden they're lining their pockets. And,
Jared,
very rare that we ever see that.
Right. And sorry, you got me so excited. But,
go.
As you're saying that, it makes me think of what we're avoiding is like, what we don't want is low trust sales.
Right.
What we're looking for in that education and what we want to create is really this high trust sales environment. And remember back when we did your leadership training and Chad went through the trust equation, meaning to create high trust, we look for credibility. Am I credible in what I do? Can you trust that I can do the work? Reliability, I'm going to show up and I'm consistent in core areas. And then energy, meaning not just positive energy, but the energy that I'm here for you. I'm not here for me, but I'm here for you as a person and for the outcomes that we're going to get together, but it's in service. And so high trust is when we're coming from this place that we're coming from, I'm in service of you. And I think that's that difference between low trust and high trust sales. No one wants that low trust sale where you're in I'm going to inject you to this ticket because I need my ticket average.
Correct.
No,
I want to get my average. Yeah, exactly.
I'm out of here. But
Exactly.
if I'm in it for you, like if my energy is in service of you and doing the right thing for the patient in the chair and knowing that like the confidence that I'm going to create in delivering this optimal correction and doing a treatment plan for you and like, let's collaborate on your care. They can feel that energy and that's where it's high trust sales. And we know that the best patient outcomes happen, satisfaction happens, and they keep coming back.
Now, when it comes to so we've got 80% conversion rate is what we shoot for to get the lead to sit their butt in the seat. When it comes to them sitting their butt in that seat and paying for something afterwards, what kind of numbers KPIs are you tracking there? Are you just tracking like did the appointment result in a sale, or are you just shooting for 100% of appointments to result in sale?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jared. So I want to backtrack and kind of break it down. When you're looking at that 80% conversion of lead to in the chair, right? And so depending on your business model, that chair might be a consultation chair. It might be the treatment chair with a little pre-consultation in hopes to go into a sale. So we're looking for, if it's in that consultation, then we want 80% of those sales consults to go into the chair then, right?
Which I'd venture to bet that's the low end for most clinics. Once somebody's sitting there, it's like once they're there, it's like, what am I doing? Like, of course I'm going to get some talks or whatever it is.
Right, but that might be where you have a sales lead where they're taking like laser hair removal consultations, body contouring consultations, like all the categories of consultations. And so then you'll look at, okay, how am I tracking? Am I below 80%? Well, then I simply just need to align some training for that person, some resources.
Do you ever encourage pre-work to the lead? What happens between them booking and them sitting their butts in that seat? Is it just reminders, or are we sending videos to them? Like, hey, by the way, here's kind of what it's like. Is there anything that like warms the lead up a little bit more that you do between then?
Yeah, and we do see a best practice there of like, how do we make it so it's really personalized? Like, how do we wow? Right? At least you hear that term often throughout the industry, but how do we wow? And that can be like, maybe I'm sending like, oh, this is my before and after. Like I did this treatment, look at the results. Here's some information on that treatment. Maybe it's a little video on that treatment, whatever it is to like keep them excited about coming in. But most importantly, when we're looking at decreasing no-show rates from that touch point, because you can tend to have a higher no-show rate on that initial consultation, is that we have a personalized reach out. Ideally, it's just a text from the person that they're going to see. So if they know, and when we had issues with no-shows at that touch point, like, what can we do to decrease that? What brought those no-shows down substantially was simply a personal reach out, 24 to 48 hours, saying, I'm excited to see you. And then the that prospect would come in because like someone's counting on me. Like they value that I'm actually coming in. And
Mm.
so they tend to come in more often.
And that's a
Or
phone call, right? Not just a text.
it can be a phone call or a text,
Okay.
but just it depends on like some people only use text, right?
Of
So
course.
trying a phone call, but or a text, the email is probably not going to get it to them in time, but having it from the person they're going to see, that
Mm.
substantially will decrease no-show rates at that touch point.
That's
Um,
huge. And then,
yeah,
and is there a healthy no-show rate or should the no-show rate be as close to zero as possible?
I I haven't tracked as a main KPI because I'm like I just want
Yeah.
that at zero. And if we're
I just
having
want no, I just want no shows. I want zero no shows. Thank you very much.
I feel
Yeah.
like 10% is too much.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah, that's
Because I went through that with it's getting into my company, but with aesthetic conversion, there was a month that we went through where we went through probably like 5% no show rates to sales calls. And these are just fresh leads that like somebody just books through our website or something like that.
yeah.
And I was like, what is going on here? Like so many people just not showing up to the sales call in the first place. I'm like, you booked this. What are we doing? It's a Zoom call. And I was on with our friends over at Maven, if you've met them,
Oh yeah.
and they help us run our numbers. And Haley from Maven was asking like, hey, what's your hook for why they should show up to that call? Are they looking at it like a sales call? Or are they looking at it like they're going to get a marketing evaluation? I was like, that's a really great point. And we changed the verbiage because that's what I do. Those calls are like 40 minutes of me assessing their whole marketing performance, sending them away with great mindset. Like there's so much value they get in those meetings. And the call was labeled as free demo from Aesthetic Conversion, and now it's a complimentary marketing evaluation and we haven't had a no-show yet. Yeah. So there's just little tweaks like that showcase value. And same deal for me. I'm like, I want a 0% no-show rate. I
0%.
I would like zero. Thank you very much.
That's a good call out though, Jared, of if we do have no shows, then it's a matter of how we provided the value to the patient, right?
Yeah. Now, when they're in that initial appointment, do we care about ticket volume, about the amount of procedure somebody is booking, or are we just concerned about making sure that we give them what they're looking for that day and then working on adding verticals and adding, like somebody comes in for talks, are we talking to them about filler that day, or are we saying, hey, let's treat them for talks, build a relationship, and then on their follow-up, we'll talk more about other things that we do?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jared. It's I think where we fall short typically is that we assume, okay, they're booking for talks, so all they want is talks, so all we're going to talk about is talks.
Yeah, I'm not bringing up filler. I'm not going to try to embarrass them. I'm not going to.
They didn't ask me about that. But often our patient doesn't even know what we can do, right? Like you still hear, like I plump my lips with Botox. Like, no.
Exactly. You might have flipped, at best, you might have flipped him with Botox.
Yeah,
at
no.
best.
So we can't assume that our patient knows everything that we know, where that education does come in. And so I like a best practice of also priming at that telephone touch point. When you are booking that consultation, would you like to, so I have you booked for, say, Botox. Would you also like to add like maybe lip filler or mid-face in your point? I just want to make sure that we have enough time for that to do what you like to do. And they might say, just talks, that's great, but they've started to prime like, oh, I could do something with my lips, I could do mid-face.
Yeah.
So we start to prime them at that touch point.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's a great way to do that. And then also they might say, oh, actually I do want to do my mid-face while I'm there. They might actually be a seasoned consumer from other practice, and then now they've had the right amount of time allotted to the schedule for their treatment. And then in that room, we want to have that full facial assessment. Even though they're coming in, they might say, hey, I just, I do my 30 units. This is what I want. We know, like based upon like the real self studies, that 88% of our consumers actually are expecting a facial assessment, right? They're expecting that when they come in. So delivering service excellence actually means that we deliver a facial assessment at every appointment.
That's huge.
And we do have a great guide just free on our website of mastering or delivering a facial assessment. Because this is typically when we see a lower ticket average. It's either we're not doing the facial assessment because it's intimidating, or we're not confident in it yet. Or yeah, those two reasons. Basically,
I,
it's we don't have the process down or we're not doing them at all.
I think confidence is a huge point there because typically, if somebody doesn't have a high average ticket, they're probably letting the patient lead that conversation.
Mhm.
You know, where they're, oh well, what do you want? And man, the more the patient looks at you as the expert, and you say, yeah, okay, so, and you know who I think is the absolute king of consults is George Baxter Holder,
Yes, he
fellow.
is. Yes.
Holy smokes! I've seen him like talk about his philosophy, and I'm like, oh, George, I would love for you to invite me because he starts off with, hey, what do you love about your face? And the person says, oh,
I
well, I
think George
love,
is worth love, and
yeah.
I so admire that.
What do you love about yourself? Because it's often people come and they say, hey, what's the problem you want me to solve? And really it's like, what, if we're chasing problems, like we're starting with insecurity, but if it's, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love my eyes. And then
Driving
George says,
confidence.
great, how do we accentuate, how do we drive all attention towards those beautiful eyes of yours? You know,
Yes.
and rather than saying like, man, you've got a really strong, you know, you're a girl and you have a really strong jawline. Maybe we should throw some Botox in there. And maybe the girl's like, actually, I really like my jawline. Thank you very much. You know, and that's like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, like all of a sudden he's the person's like jumping in on what they think you need instead of saying, what do you love? What do you love and how can we
Yeah.
accentuate that
What
even
do
more?
you
I think
love?
it's such a cool start.
And then
Um,
normal, and what we often see in with providers, where like, oh, I don't want to offend, right? We're
of
healers. Like,
course.
no one wants to offend. We want to make sure that everyone feels validated and elevated when they're in their chair. And so the best practice of really normalizing, like many of my patients experience, or it's very common in then teaching you about the aging process.
Yeah.
And so there's beautiful ways to be able to do that facial assessment to where it's really empowering to the patient. It is educational, and just
Mm.
like to George, like it's elevating, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but the most common that you see when we're avoidant to the facial assessment is, would you like the treatment that you did last time? I see you did X amount of units. Is that what you'd like to do again today?
Yeah.
And then we just fall into this repetitive trap. But we know that
Which
under correction is going to lead to not coming back. And
Yeah,
so,
well, I'm absolutely that patient that I'm texting my injector anytime I get something done. I'm like, look, like there's a little bit of peeking going on here. There's a little, and I'm like videos and everything, being like, okay, so next time we do this, let's like do a little bit less right here, and let's do a little more right here. And I'm like, I'm that patient with my injector. God bless Alexis Bowie from the Orlando Injector. She crushes, but she deals with my crazy as well. So we've talked a little bit about the conversion rate that a clinic should get from picking up the phone and getting that button to a seat. We've talked about maybe what that consultation should look like, and then what right after the appointment they just say thank you very much. They charge the card and they walk away, or what is our follow up?
Jared, be
Yeah. Do,
devastating.
do we rebook automatically? Do we just tell them during the what? How do we get these people back on our schedule?
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you brought that up, because one, going back to the consultation too, just one I want to bring in. If we want to look at really higher retention rates, higher lifetime value of a patient, then we do ideally want to have a membership offering within our practice.
Yeah.
And this is also where this falls into when you would sell that membership, like having that treatment plan, and based on this treatment plan, this is the level of membership that we recommend that goes with your treatment plan.
Mm,
And so that's really the ideal
that's
place
cool.
to
That's
put
really
the
cool.
membership, because really we're selling membership to benefit the patient, right?
Yeah.
High trust
So
sale.
so what you build the facial balancing plan or whatever the thing is with a person, and then you say, hey, based on this, like if you're a member, this is what that would
This
cost
is
per
what I
year.
recommend. Like, this is what I
Hmm.
recommend based upon our treatment plan. And we're not doing
Yeah.
everything today, right? We're building a three-phase treatment plan ideally, where this is what's recommended as a foundation. This is because this is a lifelong journey together. This is not a low trust sale, it's a high trust sale. So
Yeah.
then this is what it looks like your next visit, and you're following. And we could do more today if you'd like, but this is the long term. What do you think? And then this is based upon this treatment plan. This is the membership that I recommend that fits your treatment plan. And
That's
it might not be the
huge.
highest membership. We're doing the right thing for the patient. Now they might grow
Mm.
into a higher membership, but this is where we're able to educate that. And typically that's where like a patient's like, of course I would do that.
Of course, it's gonna save them money in the end. Like they're
Yeah,
gonna because if they did it a la carte, it would cost 15 to 20% more.
yeah,
Like
it
it's a
costs
no
more.
brainer.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
no-brainer, and they're invested, and they have a high trust at that point. But then, so now, then once that treatment's performed, I going into this touch point, the consistency is key, especially for scalability and of the brand. And so, where we see inconsistency in this experience is one provider marking the treatment and another provider not marking. And
Hmm.
so the patient will actually see a higher perceived value when the provider marks, even
Meaning
though
like draws,
yes, and so
markings on their face
yes,
during the.
if they do the marking, because like we know those expert injectors, like I know the anatomy and I could do this with a
Of
blindfold.
course,
But our consumers see that as more valuable if they're going from injector to injector. So just
yeah.
creating consistency is just a little plug there
I
of
always make jokes during that part where I say, "Oh, do you do birthdays?" When they're like, like drawing like lines.
and then that
Can you draw my kid's
yeah,
face?
you draw that, but then
Yeah.
doing what you allude to is the rebook, right? That
Mm.
um, in that patient experience, we go from then treatment into the rebook, and there is definitely a tried and true formula to enhancing your rebook rates. One, I know you're going to ask me what's the KPI for rebook. We want that 80% on rebook as well.
Oh, okay, 80%. That's
Yeah.
really good.
And across, like, just from what we've seen a lot of like 40 to 65% out there. So if you're
Mhm.
there, start where you are, not where you think you should be. That's a quote
I've
we
seen a
think.
lot of 0%, Jamie. You're being gracious with 40%. I've seen tons of 5, 0, 10% with our
Oh,
clinics.
well, if you're there, start where you are, not where you think you should be. Start at
Okay.
zero, but we're going to get you up to 80. And the
Awesome.
best way to do it is really having the provider be the one that recommends that rebook. And so we're
Mm.
looking at a couple of key areas. One, that the provider recommends it. Two, that the provider then, if they're having the someone else rebook, that they're positioning that person for the rebook. And then three, that the rebook happens before you collect money.
Yeah.
So rebook rates actually go down if you do the transaction and then ask for the rebook. So that order
Hmm.
is actually really important too. So
So,
uh,
so appointment finishes. Provider says, "Hey Jamie, love treating you today. In order for us to really accomplish what we want, I'm gonna need to see you again in 3 months." Okay.
that,
So
my,
we've got Melinda coming in right now. She's gonna quickly just lock in that appointment. We can change it after the fact. It's no big deal.
yeah,
But I want to make sure that we've got that on the schedule because we're already filling up. And then after that, she's gonna take you up to the front, and you
damn,
guys
you're
can,
good, Jared.
right? Is that kind
You're
of what we're
so
looking for?
good. Yeah, that's
That's
exactly what
right.
we're looking for. And when we
And what do
teach
we
that,
on like a roaming iPad around the office, whatever the MA just quickly throws them in and then puts them up to the front.
yeah, and I do like maybe the provider can do it right there, but if they're
Yeah.
working with an MA, like yes, then they position your good hands are going to go ahead and get you booked.
Killer.
But the analogy we teach, and this it tends to stick with teams, is if you've ever played volleyball, which I never did, but I had an awesome volleyball playing sister, and so I got to
Hmm.
see her kick some ass on. Can I say
Yeah.
that?
You can say ass. That's okay. You can say any cuss word you want,
She's that good.
including sales.
It's
Yeah.
sales. And
Yeah.
so what you'd see is you have both a setter and a spiker in volleyball, right? And so a spiker can't spike unless the setter sets. And that's the same thing here in rebooks. The
Mm,
provider has to be the setter. Now the provider can be the
cool.
setter and the spiker, but they have to at least be the setter in order for that next person to book the rebook. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. Or
Mm,
your conversion rate will just be much lower. And so having the provider give their recommendation, not an ask, but this I'd like to see you back, right? It's a recommendation. Even if I've had practices that have watched their conversion for providers that walk the patient side by side to the front desk to rebook
yeah,
versus
I've heard of
just
that as
sending
well.
them off. Rebook
Hmm.
rates actually go up if you walk
Yep.
side by side to the front desk.
Yep. I've heard of
Um,
that.
and then have them do it before the checkout, rebooking first.
Man, I spoke to some provider that we're working with. It's a client of ours. I forget who it is, but they book the follow-up appointment before the treatment. Like the person's sitting in the
Nice.
chair like numbing, and they're like, by the way, like we've got the plan.
Yeah,
While we're numbing, we're just gonna lock in that other that next appointment just so that it's on the calendar and you can
beautiful.
change it whenever you want. Yeah, that it kind of just gets it out of the way before anything
Yeah,
traumatic could happen,
right.
which is that's an interesting way to do it as well.
Yeah, that's
Um,
and then what we see with that is we're a result of you're going to have your patient visits in that year bump up
mhm.
by at least half to up to one full visit a year. So typically when we see that conversion or that rebook rate, that 80%, we're experiencing one extra visit per year for your patient. So think if you have, right, like 1,000 patients.
It doubles your business. It literally doubles your business. That is crazy.
You can go from like 2.5 visits a year to 3.5 visits a year. If you have 1,000 people in your database and 1,000 average ticket, that's $100,000 just by rebooking it every appointment.
That's huge. That's huge.
It's huge. It's huge.
Man, well, I know I could literally talk to you for another hour and a half about all of these. I am, Jamie, you're an absolute expert. And I know, everybody listening, I know we've talked a lot about the KPIs you should be tracking and a little bit of some of the how-tos, but really like if you are realizing, oh my gosh, I'm not even tracking these numbers. I don't even know how to track these numbers. You have got to give Jamie a call, give Jamie and Chad a call over at Peak Gravity Leadership. They are incredibly impactful, intentional people. Their whole goal is to work with you, is to work with you for you to succeed. And not sales to get money. It's sales to help and influence. And so, Jamie, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, if you email me, it's just Jamie, Jamie at peakgravityleadership.com. Or if you want, we have some really great resources. We understand we're not able to work with everybody, but we want to help everybody. So we have some free resources online. Just if you go to peakgravityleadership.com, then at the top I put free resources. And then if you scroll down, there's some aesthetic medicine specific resources from like the empowering facial assessment. There's some one-on-one worksheets to create high performance for your team. And some other really fun things for you there too. So if you do a form fill, that'll come to us as well.
You will not be disappointed if you guys work with Peak Gravity. They've changed our business, and we're not even a clinic, and they've done wonders with us. So I would highly advise give Jamie a call or an email if you are struggling with any of these numbers, or if you don't even know how to track them. That's a great place to start, because oftentimes it's learning the numbers that will provide the light that you need to see the path you need to take.
Oh gosh, and just communicating the numbers, right? Like just having the KPIs for your team and communicating them and the why behind them.
Yeah. What gets measured gets managed. I just did a whole social media post about that. What gets measured gets managed. If we're not looking at it, usually it's because we're afraid that it sucks. And while we're afraid that it sucks, it is sucking. Like I have never made more money in my life than when I have looked at my bank account every day. Like when I look at income and expenses every day, I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we paying for this? And oh my gosh, we need to make more money. And then I'm looking at opportunities to grow, whatever. So whatever it is that you are focusing on, that's what is going to grow. So
just measure what you want to grow.
That's exactly right. Like Jamie being 5'1" today. I guarantee next time you see Jamie, she is going to be 5'8".
5'8", right. Sorry, it's been such a pleasure. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm grateful for everyone who's listening too. Thank you for coming together as a community in this way.
Well, the feeling is very mutual, Jamie. I'm glad that we got a little bit of time together. And you're just my buddy. I love getting to connect with you and hear from you. I just love connecting. So again, everybody, this has been the Patient Magnet. If there's anything that you loved, disagreed with, agreed with, please put it in the comments. We want to chat with you. I'd love to fight with you in the comments. If you say, actually, I think the best KPI for sales is this, this, and this, I would love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, exactly. Or if you have other guests in the future that you want to suggest for us to interview on some of these topics as well, we'd love to hear it as well. Again, I'm Jared Rohr, owner of Aesthetic Conversion, our marketing agency. And if there's anything else that you guys need, feel free to reach out on into our comment section or go to our website, aestheticconversion.com. But other than that, thank you guys. Thanks for attending. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.